Cool. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Gimme Growth. Today, we're here with Ryan Buckley. And Ryan's a serial entrepreneur who is probably most well known for launching Scripted. Scripted is a on-demand content creation platform. He's also started several other cool SaaS businesses. My favorite is Twofer, which I actually use to find all the email addresses for my outbound campaigns. Both of these tools are in the tools directory, so you'll get familiar with both of them. But more important than tools, Ryan has really deep insights into content creation patterns that will help you grow your business. So Ryan, I'll let you take it from here, but thanks so much for joining us.
Really nice to be here and happy to chat about everything that I've learned about content marketing in the last 5 years.
Sweet.
So what I want to chat with everyone about is the core benefit of content marketing, which is driving your acquisition cost to zero. And I'll go through what this means exactly, but if you're out there fundraising and if you're an early stage company trying to talk to investors, the thing that they're going to care most about, at least the savvy ones, is the lifetime value of a customer. And whether your customer is a business or a person, doesn't matter. It's a lifetime value greater than the acquisition cost. And if you can tell them that here's my LTV and here is my what they call CAC, customer acquisition cost, and you're able to describe to them how you calculated those two numbers and say with a straight face that my LTV is twice what my acquisition cost is, that will make it dramatically easier for you to fundraise, much less to actually grow your business, which is ultimately why you started this thing in the first place. So I'm going to talk to you about how writing and regular blogging can help you get there. So first, definition of a buzzword, content marketing. I like this search engine land quote. It is the practice of creating, publishing, and sharing content with the goal of building the reputation and visibility of your brand. The other way that I like to describe it is content marketing is the way that marketers preferred to be marketed or sold to. This is the idea that you have an itch, your hair's on fire, you need to solve that problem. What do? You go to Google. And Google may take you to blog posts, it may take you to Quora posts, it may even take you to your very own blog. But the point is, you have a need, you've expressed intent to one of the major search engines, and you land on a piece of content that describes your solution. The universe of online content marketing is still very text-driven. Media of other sorts works very well. You can have clickable infographics, you can have video, you can have animated GIFs, but the search engines still do not parse that content very well, not nearly as well as it parses writing. So even if you have a beautiful video production or the ability to produce these awesome infographics, you still want to have some actual written, compelling, shareable text to go alongside all of that other media. It's just going to work so much better that way. And the other elements of content marketing include distribution, it includes publishing, it includes curation, coming up with ideas. But writing is what I'm going to talk about today because, as Dom said in the intro, that is essentially what I know best. So why does this matter? I'm going to go through this really fast, but mobile phones making content a lot more possible. People reading stuff on their mobile phones every time they're on a bus, even while they're driving. The performance marketing that goes back to what I'm talking about with customer acquisition costs and needing to measure the impact of every single channel, and the fact that a lot of the traditional SEM spend, that paid advertising spend, keeps getting blocked by these Chrome extensions and even Apple building in some native tools to block unwanted ads. So In other words, the best way to reach people is to find them at the moment of intent. And the way that you find them is make it very easy for them to find you. And that's the essence of content marketing. But you might think, hey, if this is so easy, or this is so important, then why isn't everyone doing it? And it's because it's not easy. It does take some diligence on your part. It takes a process. And not everyone has the ability to create compelling content. That is why we started Scripted, but this presentation is going to be much more about the origins of content marketing and how you can take advantage of it and how to really think about your own production of content. Before I go into that, I just think it's interesting to start with a brief history of writing and put everything that we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes into some context. Writing has been around for close to 5,000 years. You probably read the Epic of Gilgamesh in middle school. Just remember that. People call that one of the very first actual written oral histories. Things really took off about 3,000 years later with the advent of block printing. This is what allowed text to become mass-produced. It, of course, took another quantum leap forward when instead of just these wooden blocks and having to ink it and all that stuff, the printing press was developed, which allowed you to use that same block printing technology, but at a much larger scale. And then this is when books and things and pamphlets really broke through the upper class and the clergy, and literacy rates started to grow. Once words became digitized, boom, that's the era that we're in now, and created a whole other leap forward in the availability of information. And you could still argue that computer had a tremendous effect on literacy as well. Advent of the World Wide Web and the first browsers, and then of course we have Google. And this is where the modern content marketing era begins. But you can think of content marketing as going all the way back to those town squares in the Middle Ages of people decrying the Pope, decrying the king, whatever it was. They're out in the middle of the town square handing out pamphlets. That is the essence of what we're doing today with content marketing and getting yourself in front of Google. So, is there any proof to the fact that content, or what I'm saying, that content marketing works? I point to this graph that HubSpot produces because they are one of the only companies out there that has a huge blogging platform and the analytics tool, in that they actually host the blogs themselves and can therefore see the traffic. So they've collected data across their 10 or 15,000 customers and produced this very simple chart, which demonstrates that when you're posting at least once a week, you will start to see an inflection in your traffic. So they baseline all of the data. So basically, if you're not really posting that much at all, they normalize it at that. That's what that 100 means. But if you're blogging pretty much every day, then you're going to see 350 to 400% more traffic than someone who's not blogging at all. There's also kind of a exponential shape to this curve. It's not just a straight line. That means that if you're blogging once a week, you're not going to see that much lift. But if you get to 3 to 4 times a week, you're going to see a disproportionate increase in your inbound traffic. So point is, with this graph, you really want to get to blogging as close as possible to every day. And that's where it gets kind of tricky. How do you do that? Especially when you have data like this, which is a chart showing the impact in views that various word length posts have. And you see this very disproportionate impact, much higher impact on longer form content. And this is specific to B2B. B2C, the shape would actually look a lot flatter. But for B2B content, when you're selling to businesses, longer form content always performs better, which also makes it more difficult to keep your posting frequency high. So what ultimately does this get for you? And this called the steam chart is meant to describe exactly how the ROI of content marketing works. What you're looking at here is you got time on the x-axis, and then you have blog traffic on the y. And the darkest area here is represents evergreen traffic. This is traffic from someone's blog. The dark area is evergreen traffic, where you posted the blog post over a year ago. The lighter green blue in there, that middle band, represents traffic from posts that you published 3 to 9 months ago, and that top, that lightest layer, is your most recent blog post. And most blogs look like this. We've now seen this chart for dozens and dozens of companies, and you see a majority of your traffic always coming from evergreen content, stuff that you posted over a year ago. And that fact, in essence, that on average 2/3 of blog posts, of blog traffic, comes from posts that you published more than a year ago, that is the big idea. That is the benefit, in a nutshell, of content marketing. You do content marketing because it is the gift that keeps on giving. It's the annuity in traffic. You invest in it once, and it keeps feeding you traffic for months and years later. And this is what a typical blog would look like. And these guys are publishing regularly. You can tell that because the bands are roughly equal size, or they're consistent, at least. Yeah, I put it that way. When someone is relying too heavily on their evergreen content, this is what it looks like. Your old posts dominate the traffic fingerprint. You don't want this. This means that you had a really great content marketing machine going at one point, and then you kind of took your foot off the gas. And you can also see here, there is kind of a natural decay. You can see that there is, if you turn this into a straight line, you can see that it slopes down because content does have its own kind of natural decay. And if you're into like science or studied any of the half-life stuff, it's the exact same idea. For most young companies, companies that are just getting into a growth stage, this is what your traffic would probably look like. And this is healthy. This is what you want to see. When they first launched their blog, all of their content was less than a year old. That's why there's no dark band. But starting in this case, it would have been right around 2015, they launched their blog. And you can see now how evergreen content is starting to show up in this steam chart. They have a whole bunch of content in that middle band, which is going to become evergreen. And they've done a great job about keeping up with their recent posts. So this is what you get when you have an active blog, that is that you're blogging regularly and your content keeps graduating to that really nice evergreen layer. So when people ask me, how do I measure the ROI of a blog post, or how should I think about content marketing or the benefit of content marketing, this is it. This is the proof that content marketing works. And if you're a visual person, then I think this does the trick. If you're not a visual person and this chart just really isn't making any sense to you, then you could think of it like an investment or like a bond that you buy. And you invest in that one blog post, that one series of blog posts. really is what you're doing is investing in kind of a process. And those blog posts that you spent either in the form of time and or money continue to give you dividends long after you've hit that publish button. And that's what this is showing. So there is a lot more detail that can be said around even if you drill down into those bands specifically. You really want to see a wide variety of posts that make up your evergreen content. You want a variety of posts to make up that evergreen band, so you're not relying on a single one. It's kind of the portfolio approach. On your recent posts, you want to see a lot more virality. You expect to see that. So moving ahead on now that you have your blog, you got it set up, you have your content marketing machine going, you then need to actually capture some email off of that traffic. And the best way to do that is by gating some of the content. There are really two ways to do it. You either compel someone to give you their email address by essentially giving them a gift. And these download ebook boxes are very easy to set up with WordPress. There are widgets that do this for you automatically. The other thing to use is something like SumoMe, which is Noah Kagan's startup. And here you can get them to give you an email address by providing them with some extra content in the form of a newsletter. You can also use this as a way to gate a white paper or something like that. But those are two ways that you should also consider monetizing that traffic. I'm going to go through briefly another real pro tip. This is actually something that we've recently started to do at Scripted, and a technique that I learned from one of the most successful dieting websites. The founder described this technique, which I will now describe to you. So the idea is to create a web of content on your own blog. And you do that by not letting stuff that you publish remain untouched. It's not like you hit publish once and then you're done with that piece. You're never going to edit it again. It's a lot more beneficial to you if that piece starts getting linked to other pieces, and vice versa. You put new links into that piece to other stuff that you're posting. So the way that you do this is every time you post something new onto your blog, you should create 5 links that link from the post that you just made to other posts in your database. And then you should go through your database and find 5 other posts that will link back to the one that you just published. It's kind of this 5 and 5 approach. So again, I see I have a typo actually in this first bullet, but the idea is when you publish something new, find 5 other posts that can link to your brand new one. And then also within your new post, find 5 other posts that you can link to. And then if you're just starting to do this, kind of like we did at Scripted, you'll need to go back to the dozens or maybe even hundreds of other posts in your database and do the exact same thing. So all of these posts now on your blog are linking to each other. And this is what's going to drive up the click rate, time on site, number of shares, everything. Like you capture a visitor driven to you from Google or from a friend or something, a referral link out there. By doing this, you're going to capture, you're going to get that visitor, kind of capture them in the web. And that's also the best way to eventually get them to convert, by giving you their email addresses in those two other CTA examples I shared with you earlier. While you're doing this, if you're going to have to go through every single post and do this, then you might as well start building this master SEO spreadsheet, which is the second part of this pro tip. Build a spreadsheet that has the dates that you published, the title of the post, and then the primary keywords that post represents. Even if you have to kind of guess at what keywords, like what would you want someone to search for in order to land on that post. And it's okay if you have primary and secondary, but what you're going to do is fill out a spreadsheet that has all of that. And it could take you some time. But now, whenever you post something new, this will help you identify the optimal post to do the interlinking, the link backing within your own site. And as you start to get more sophisticated about your SEO and you're using something like Moz or SEMrush to understand what keywords people are using to find you and how your competitors are doing on certain keywords, if you find that you kind of suck at a certain keyword, the key to understanding why you might suck at a keyword is going to be this spreadsheet. And chances are you're going to be getting beat on a certain keyword because you go to your spreadsheet and you're like, oh, yeah, we actually haven't created any content about that. Even if you think you ought to be associated with a certain word, if it's not on that spreadsheet, chances are Google's not going to rank you on it, because there's only so much you can do with just your static pages, like your home page or something. You need all of this extra content. That's why I say on this last bullet, now and only now, if you've done these 3 steps, can you really be strategic about the SEO impact of your content marketing. And because it is a real investment, it is something that you got to start early. It's a snowball. It's not going to happen right away. You might as well do it right. And I think whereas those steam graphs, I believe, are the right way to think about the benefit of content marketing, this slide right here and this technique of linking your posts to each other is the best way to actually execute and maximize the ROI of your content marketing. So a couple of concluding thoughts here. No matter what, even if you don't do a single thing that I talked about here, you will get more customers and more traffic if you simply publish more posts. You will maximize those conversion rates if you do what we discussed. But regardless, no matter what, so long as your posts have something interesting to share and they're not completely off the wall, the more you publish, the more traffic you're going to get and the more customers you're going to see from that traffic. A lot of people never get around to doing this because, understandably, it is an undertaking and not everyone loves to write. I don't even love to write all the time, and I use one of the ghostwriters on Scripted to do some of my own stuff because sometimes it's just easier to outsource it. You can outsource writing is really the other point of this slide. Just find someone who you really vibe with, and you can do it. With content marketing, more is more, similar to my first point, but the caveat to that is, especially these days, and this is what I'm seeing across all of our Scripted.com customers and just what I read about and hear about. There's a movement away from quantity towards quality. Now, if you can do more high quality pieces, you will get more benefit from doing that. But the days of just doing kind of crappy stuff and getting away with it are rapidly going away. So if you have to choose between doing 10 mediocre posts and 5 high quality posts, you should always choose go the 5 high quality route. It will pay off. And the other way to think about that, because there is so much noise out in the ether, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn Pulse, all of that stuff, people just don't want to read another generic post. But if you have an interesting angle on something, if there's some data that you and only you have, or it's just something original, or it may be on a generic topic, but you're just going to go deep down into that topic, then that's still something that's worth publishing. And this is the conclusion that I would make on that, from that chart where I showed the number of shares across the word count of a post and how the highest word count posts get the most shares. In essence, this is why, because people want higher quality, more in-depth pieces than the shorter stuff that's all kind of fluffy. I'd be remiss if I didn't at least try plugging Scripted. We are that resource that businesses rely on in order to get their writing done, match you to a writer, get you all hooked up. We handle all of the back office stuff, and our writing is just really good. So highly recommend Scripted if you're wary about doing all of this writing yourself. And here's some information about how to contact me. And I don't always sound this stuffy. It's a combination of getting over a cold and maybe a little bit of allergies where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I feel like I have constant. Hey, what's up? That was great. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
On the allergy note, I feel like I have constant allergies in San Francisco. It's like some sort of pollution problem. Yeah.
Something going on today. But at least I didn't sneeze during the presentation.
Yeah, are you sick? Cool, man. This is great. Okay, so I love the improvements of the presentation too. So Ryan came up to our distro dojo in Toronto in June. Oh my God, that was so long ago. It seems like it was.
Time flies.
Gave a presentation like this, and this is really helpful to the group. So I've written down a couple questions I just wanted to go over with you here. And so one of the things that is the biggest challenge about outsourcing, and you said if you find somebody you vibe with, but how do you actually go about doing that? Because first of all, when I sit down to write something, I oftentimes have a hard enough time figuring out what I'm going to write in the first place. And how do you actually, what is the process that somebody should go through to A, figure out how to delegate, and then B, actually select somebody that they feel comfortable with? And should they test several people? You have more experience with this than probably anybody I know. So what we see happening, again, I'll talk about Scripted, but this would be true for whether if you use Upwork, if you use Craigslist. Most people end up working with 3 different writers to start with. Okay. And then they hone in on one. So no matter which platform you use, talk to 3 different writers and talk to them is the other thing. You get on the phone with the writer, and if you really vibe with them and you can point them to your Medium account or your personal blog or whatever it is, have them read some of the stuff you've written in the past. And like I said, I'm my own customer for Scripted, and I'd worked with a few writers, but really developed a rapport with this one guy who lives in Tennessee. And every other week, I just get on the phone with him and try to jot down some ideas during the course of the time in between phone calls. And when we get on the phone, I just talk through some of the things that I was thinking about writing, and then he'll tell me what he'd be most interested in or what he thinks he could do the best job of, and similar experiences or thoughts that he's had in the past. So ultimately, it's in my best interest to choose something that he can relate to as well. It's just going to come off more genuine that way, and I'll have fewer edits and things like that. So the summary of my advice is
yes, try a few, and absolutely talk to them on the phone. I think it'll be very difficult to get a good feel for your ghostwriter unless you can at least speak to them, if not meet them.
Okay, great. So then if you're going to, like, let's say you pick 3 people, right? How prepared do you have to be in order to get them to be successful at their job? I know that there's like degrees of variability here because some are probably better pages, but like, do you usually come with a complete outline? Do you come with a topic and some research done? Do you rely on them to do the research? Do you give them like a specific, like, I want people to do this call to action? Like what is the criteria or the framework that it looks like to get somebody to be a successful writer for you?
Yeah. It's always better if you can bring more complete thoughts. That being said, if you have a good relationship with that ghostwriter, you can just kind of brainstorm over the phone. And I've done it both ways. Like, there have been some posts where I got like the spark of something, but I'm not really sure what the conclusion is. It's just more of a topic that I'm interested in. That specific post was actually the one that was about interviewing mid-career professionals, and we were having a hard time doing this at Scripted, and kept getting turned down because some of the candidates who we're talking to were just at that point in their life when they couldn't take on the risk, and we were going to be their first startup. So it was a post about how they shouldn't feel so risk averse about joining something early stage. And like, I knew that was what I wanted to write about, but I didn't really know how to structure it. And at the end of the day, I didn't really know what the point or the main takeaway would be. Mm-hmm. So that was just a conversation that I had with the ghostwriter, and he and I just, after about 15 minutes, had the 3 examples of like, these are 3 reasons why, as a mid-career person, you should want to join a company. And then the conclusion being like, hey guys, here's how you should approach that interview. There have been other times when I've come with a full outline, but I think for the most of the time, what works for me is, over the course of that week, again, like, write down the ideas that come to you that seem interesting, and then if I have time, I'll like really try to focus for 10 minutes before the call and like flesh them out. So again, it's fresh in my head going into that call, and then I feel like we're both a little bit more productive that way.
Okay. Yeah, so that's great. I need to try this out myself. It'll be fun. I'm gonna do the practical exercise. I've never hired anybody to write anything for me, so I'm gonna actually do it.
It's fun.
What cost-wise, what should people be looking at? And on the topics of cost, how do you measure ROI? Like, what is the benchmark for ROI, I should say?
Yeah. So in terms of cost, expect to pay about $100 for like 750 word post, 700 to 750 word post, and that's kind of like the bar now for a thought leadership piece. It shouldn't be less than 500 words. So about $100, which would be like 12 to 15 cents a word. You could think of it that way. And then in terms of how you want to think about getting that money back, well, it all really depends on what your objectives are. If you're posting to Medium and this really is like purely a thought leadership thing, then I don't have a good answer for you on how to think about ROI. That all depends on how much you value your followers and what you ultimately want to do with your career as a thought leader or a writer even. I think maybe the most extreme conclusion to doing all the personal blogging would be you want to write a book, and then you can directly tie book sales to the cost of all of those blog posts. I've interviewed now a lot of authors. Okay. These are more content marketing professionals who have all written books, and what they are doing is blogging regularly and then taking their best performing blog posts and turning them into books.
Yep.
And it helps them close deals. There are obviously some kind of revenue stream from the book sale, like $10 or something for a Kindle book minus Amazon's cut or whatever. Maybe you're walking away with 5 of that 10. But if you sell a few thousand copies of that book, then you're probably at least break even on the ghostwriting costs.
Yep.
And then for the rest of your life, you get to put Dominic Coriel, author. And how cool would that be?
Yeah, pretty cool. I should do it. Yeah.
That's what I want to do, actually. I still got to write a book.
Next project.
Yeah.
What was the name? What was the name of Scripted before it was Scripted?
It was Script, spelled like ripped.
Yeah. You should. Yeah, you should do. That should be the name of your book. Next question. So what is the process that people should use to actually pick the topics? Because when you look at the quantity of content and the length of the posts that you suggest doing, coming up with topics that are related to your business, so I think like a referral marketing, for example, like with Talkable, right?
Yep.
There's no way that we could have a topic on referral marketing necessarily for that many days or that many weeks in a row. How do you suggest that people find the right audience and then figure out what are the relevant topics specific to them so that they can keep that cadence up?
Yeah. Well, that is, so you can do it manually just by following other people on Twitter in and around that space and seeing what they write about, and then just collect that information, either write it down or just store it in your head. And there's no shame in doing your own take on someone else's topic. That's not plagiarism, and in fact, it's kind of encouraged. You want that discourse, so long as the post itself is original, it's entirely your own.
Yeah.
Then have at it. And then there are other tools, plenty of online tools that will do some of that curation for you. There's just a bunch of SaaS tools that you just put in a bunch of Twitter accounts, a bunch of blogs, and then it will surface like the trending topics around your industry. The other way to do it is simply to be creative. If you feel like you've tapped out on referral marketing and affiliate marketing, then start to go on little tangents, like things that may not be entirely related to the marketing industry, but are close enough. I think the best example that I can think of it was a big scripted client. We were doing writing for Peroni, the beverage, like the beverage company. The post we did had nothing to do with alcohol or drinking. It was all high-end Italian fashion, like just all the various cars and sunglasses and stuff like that. It had nothing whatsoever to do with alcohol. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty effective strategy. You can think of it, maybe the first leap is to associate yourself with other brands you admire and or lifestyles that you admire, or marketing techniques or marketing companies that you admire. And then go from there. And I think you'll find that by just doing it, writing about anything, writing about whatever seems interesting or would be fun to write about for you, it's just as important as what the actual topic is, because people can kind of smell authenticity. And if it's fun to read, then they'll share, and it'll eventually come back around to the right content.
It becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy too. It's like the more you write about stuff, the more you find other stuff to write about because you think of related topics. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's essentially what I'm saying. You just gotta break the seal somehow.
Okay. Yeah, I really like the 5 and 5 link framework. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I include that in the practical example or the tactical example that we do. Like
Cool. Oh, good.
And then other than that, yeah, I mean, this is great. I'm gonna stop recording in a second and we'll finish up talking. But thank you so much for being here and doing this. This is really great.
Hey, my pleasure, Dom. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.